All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. In this video, we're going to talk about what Brian McIntyre, the trainer of Terrence Crawford, had to say about Errol Spence Jr. in an interview that he gave in the aftermath of the Shakur Stevenson versus Oscar Valdez press conference. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. In this video, we're going to talk about the welterweight division again. Brian McIntyre gives his 2 cents following up a tweet that he had originally given about Errol Spence Jr., Terrence Crawford, what he thought about Errol Spence's last performance, and whether he thinks that the fight between Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. can be made next. Before I get into that, though, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are a new subscriber to the channel, let me invite you to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. We do that pretty much every day, live streams every day, really good boxing community. I think that you'll enjoy it. Also, if you're a longtime subscriber and supporter, thank you so much for all your support during the live streams, the Cash App, and the Super Chat support that you guys give to the channel. Keep the channel going. So thank you guys very much for continuing to stop by. You know who you guys are. But let's get into this. Shakur Stevenson and Oscar Valdez will be fighting for a unified championship at 130 pounds. There are several fighters that are on the undercard. I do believe one of them is Keyshawn Davis. And as a result of the people that are there, Brian McIntyre, who was the trainer of Terrence Crawford, was there being interviewed about what he thought about a variety of circumstances. Someone from Fight Hype went up to him and asked him, what did you think about the Errol Spence Jr., Yordenis Ugas fight? And then what do you think about the possibility of those guys fighting by the end of this year? Now, what he said was, well, like the tweet that I put out, I said, Bud is going to destroy him, right? Now, he didn't ask the question about what he thought of the Ugas fight. He said, Bud is going to destroy him. He said, look, Errol looked like he was stronger. He looked like he was, he could look like he could be stronger, like he could be in better shape. However, he does the same thing he always does, and doing the same thing, he's going to be basically easy to understand, and Bud is going to go in there and destroy him because he just does the same thing. He does the same thing every fight. He didn't see any improvement in him. It's just the same old guy again. And then when he was asked about whether or not he believed the fight with Errol Spence Jr. and Terrence Crawford would take next, what could happen by the end of the year, he said, probably. He said, yeah, probably. Good chance, something like a good chance. He said, Terrence Crawford wants to fight. Errol, says that he wants to fight. So yeah, we could see that fight, taking place. Now, just to pose what he is saying, this is like really 2 very, very interesting things about Errol Spence Jr. and Terrence Crawford. Derek James, who's the trainer of Errol Spence Jr., if you recall, was just asked last week, the week before last, what he thought about Terrence Crawford and fighting Terrence Crawford, and pretty much said the same thing. If he doesn't get better, I don't see what he is going to do to be able to beat Errol Spence Jr. And he talked, kind of in like indirect terms about Bud relying on his athleticism, Bud relying on, and fighters, like the older they get, the more they rely on their athleticism, the more likely it is that they're going to lose because they over rely on their athleticism. Similar to guys, like I think probably the best examples of that type of fighter is probably Roy Jones Jr. Roy Jones Jr. is somebody that, could do a lot of things, could make a lot of mistakes, could really open himself up to a lot of risk in a ring, and could never had to pay the price because his physical abilities and his physical athleticism was able to overcome, the risk that he was taking, right? So he said, so pretty much Derek James is saying, that it is Terrence Crawford's athleticism and ability to, that ability to respond and to do things that are out of the ordinary that other people can't do, that goes away with age. That's why I did that video about Shakur Stevenson saying that he held his own against Terrence Crawford in sparring. Now, I'm telling you, you guys can say what you want to say. Bud Crawford is a very, very competitive person. Shakur Stevenson is a very, very competitive person. You can see Shakur Stevenson slap boxing Andre Ward. He is not playing around with him. He's trying to win. Same thing with Terrence Crawford, trying to win. But whatever the case is, at 35 years old, when you're fighting a 24-year-old, when you get to 34, 35 years old, Errol Spence Jr., same thing. 32, I think not by the time, but if this fight between Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence took place this year, say it took place in October, which I think is probably the most realistic time frame for that fight to take place, Errol Spence Jr. would still be 32, and Terrence Crawford would be 35. I think there's like a 2.5 year age difference between the two of them. However, if Errol Spence Jr. for somebody like Terrence Crawford is predictable, is repeatable, is predictable, is predictable. I was going to say predictable and repeatable because that's what systems typically are to make them successful. They're consistent. They're repeatable. They're consistent. If he becomes predictable to Terrence, then Terrence should be able to find holes and be able to do what he wants to do in order to win the fight. My thing with it is, though, that I don't see how either camp really can feel as if they're going to destroy the other guy, right? When Terrence Crawford, when Bomac says, watch me, we're going to destroy the guy, we're going to do that, we're going to do that to him, to me that means like, I'm just looking like, what are you going to do to destroy him, right? The fact that he does the same thing every time, everybody that's been in the ring with Errol Spence Jr. has said that. And has said but when they get into the ring, it's something different than what they expect. Similar to Floyd Mayweather Jr. Man, Floyd Mayweather Jr., you pretty much knew what Floyd Mayweather Jr. was doing when he got into the ring. All kind of tapes on him, was predictable in the sense that you knew what type of approach he could do, what his counter shots were going to be. However, when they're in the ring with him, it doesn't quite work out like that, right? But not saying it can't work that way for Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford is an excellent fighter. Top 10, obviously a top pound-for-pound fighter in the world in my book, along with Errol Spence Jr. for me at this point in time. And, we're just going to have to see when the fight goes in. I just hope for Terrence Crawford's sake, or for Bomac and Terrence Crawford's sake, is that they don't go in thinking that, yeah, this guy's just some cookie-cutter guy, and it's just going to be, he's not doing anything different. He's the same old guy. We know what he is. Because the same old guy, that's what Yordenis Ugas and Salas said. He's like, yeah, we see him. We know what he's doing. We understand how he's going to do. And they got in the ring and they couldn't. And they found it significantly harder to do what they think they could do to beat him, right? Mikey Garcia, same thing. Well, we know it's predictable. We know what he's going to do. I see something. Didn't work out for him, right? Same thing I would have talked about Terrence Crawford with Errol and Derrick James. I would not anticipate this man's athleticism just disappearing overnight, and would expect this dude to be the best form of himself when he gets to the fight. But anyway, that's what Bomac said. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.